Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. Pakistan is once again grappling with a new wave of terrorism and militancy. And Balochistan and KP remain at the epicenter of these militant attacks. Groups like, of course, TTP and BLA are targeting security forces, innocent civilians, as well as critical infrastructure. And when we look at different reports, according to latest Global Terrorism Index report, Pakistan ranks 4th among the countries most affected by terrorism and militancy. Tonight we'll be looking at the reasons behind this spike in militancy and terrorism, and what needs to be done when we look at the root causes of course, these terrorism attacks from across the border and from other non-state actors as well. And of course, when we look at the security mechanisms and the efforts that are being made by Pakistani government as well as security establishment. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Mr. Abdullah Khan, who is security analyst. Welcome to the program. We're also joined by Mr. Sheharyar Khan, who is analyst. Welcome to the program. And we are joined online by Brigadier Ghazanfar Ali Shah, who is defense analyst. Welcome to the program. We are joined by Ali Sheharyar Khan Tipu, who is analyst. Welcome to the program. So, Mr. Abdullah, let me start with you. Of course, first of all, with a very basic question. Of course, when we look at the recent stats, they are very concerning. Even within, of course, the last, of course, few weeks, the number of casualties when we look at these attacks and the targets, of course, were security forces as well as innocent civilians. How do you see this situation and what are the reasons, in your opinion, in this recent spike in terrorist and militant attacks?
Thank you for inviting me into your show. Actually, the recent surge is related to the overall trends which are going on in Pakistan since 2020, when different subgroups of TTP merged back and then spike started. Eventually in 2021, when Taliban took over Afghanistan, then the situation further deteriorated in Pakistan. The main reason is that for almost 2 decades, there were forces who were accusing Pakistan of playing double game in Afghanistan. For me now, they are actually trying to destabilize Pakistan. Perhaps they are in an effort with the help of our eastern neighbor to destabilize Pakistan. So it is part of a larger game, although there are loopholes in our own policies and strategies as well, but this is part of a bigger game, and that game is there in Balochistan as well and KP as well. And if you look into this current trend which you mentioned, you will see same kind of activities are happening in Balochistan and same kind of activities are happening in KP. Like appearing, some militants will appear on roads, block them and then disappear. It is happening in Balochistan and happening in KP as well. This is to challenge the rate of the government and to give a message to the masses that we are holding territory. In fact, that is not true, but they are doing same. It means the strings are being pulled from same source. What the same source is, everybody knows, and Pakistan have given a certain dossier to international community as well. But
right.
Unfortunately,
let me take Sheharyar's viewpoint on this. Sheharyar, what's your take on this? Like Mr. Abdullah alluded to, that after Taliban took over government back in, of course, 2021, August 2021, we have seen the surge in terrorism. How these attacks are linked to those, and of course, when we look at the reasons, the root causes, of course, Pakistan was expecting that the security situation would be better. But now TTP and other, of course, BLA and other such groups are regrouping, re-emerging. So what's your take on this in, of course, the cross-border terrorism aspect of these attacks?
So, Maryam, definitely the incidences of terrorism have increased greatly and by many folds since August 21, when the Taliban basically took over. There was initially this like understanding or this like feeling within the Pakistan security apparatus that after the Taliban take over in Afghanistan, the security situation in Pakistan would get better, and Taliban, the Afghan Taliban that I'm talking about, would basically rein in the TTP and basically get them into some sort of like understanding in which they wouldn't like cross the border into this side of Pakistan. That unfortunately did not happen. And what generally is happening is that the TTP basically took a lot of like encouragement and confidence when the Afghan Taliban basically took over Afghanistan, and there was this like understanding that the Afghan Taliban collectively have beaten, you know, the US. So there was a high morale going on that sort of the side of the border, and they basically had this like feeling of euphoria, and under that like feeling, the TTP basically thought that their fight has now ended in Afghanistan, and then they basically concentrated their efforts towards the Pakistani law enforcement agencies and the Pakistan military. Since then, there are various reports globally, especially the UN Sanctions Monitoring Committee reports have been coming out at a quarterly basis, and these reports, and I'm like quoting a very neutral source, that all of these various terrorist organizations are now working under the umbrella of TTP. And in the Islamabad Security Dialogue, which happened last week, Pakistan's Army Chief General also like mentioned that TTP is now becoming a terrorist organization which is kind of congregating all the splinter groups and all the regional terrorist organizations that have historically been operating from Afghanistan soil, and it's becoming an issue not only for Pakistan but also as a regional issue as well. Now when it comes to the BLA, when it comes to like the situation in Balochistan, the organization of BLAT is getting a lot of support from TTP. They have basically transferred, they have like done a lot of capacity building in terms of intelligence gathering, in terms of like equipping them with a lot of like weaponry, and also giving them a lot of trainings in suicide bombings.
Right, and when we talk about these angles and aspects, Fitnatul Khawarij, and how significant is, in your opinion, Brigadier Ghazanfar Saab, when we look at the external support in groups like BLA and TTP and other factors in regrouping and emerging as a power to destabilize Pakistan?
Thank you very much. Basically, as you mentioned in your introduction, the target of the TTP, the Fitna al-Kharij terrorist activities had been mainly of KPK and Balochistan. So first we must understand that why KPK and Balochistan. It is because of the fact that it is because of the contiguity of the borders of KPK and Balochistan, which run along with Afghanistan. Though Pakistan has laid the concertina cable also, wire also, made bunkers also, then some command posts and some wall like situation along the KPK border, but the border in Balochistan is still open. And all the hideouts, if you target the areas where these hideouts are located, like you start from Kunar and you can come down to Paktia, you come down to Nuristan, you come down to Helmand, all these hideouts, they are of these Fitna al-Kharij are where they are residing. And as how are they residing, why are they residing, it you and me can't say, but there has been a UN report which was published in July, which very clearly mentioned, it was not compiled by Pakistan, it was compiled by United Nations. And they said that the TTP is operating, this Afghan Taliban are providing the operation and logistic support to the Taliban. And along with this Fitna al-Kharij, they mentioned the Al-Qaeda is also helping Fitna al-Kharij to undertake terrorist activities in Pakistan. It means that Al-Qaeda's hideouts, along with this Fitna al-Kharij hideouts and those terrorists which are operating, they are present in the area adjacent to the border. And it is in the knowledge of the Taliban government, which call themselves as Muslim and call themselves, they are worse than the Taliban, they are worse than the Muslim. They are not only supporting them, they are financing them. And from where the finances are coming, we have number of times we had mentioned these finances are basically coming from India. Those finances are coming from CIA. Those finances are coming from Mossad. So because of that contiguity of border and easy access of these terrorists in the shape of Muhajirin, when they come down to those terrorist camps which are located in the areas where these Afghan Mahajin or whom we tried to expel, but we came under pressure of the Afghan government, we came under the pressure of the UNO, and we did not expel those people. So we must now bear the brunt of not expelling those people whom we should have expelled about 2 years back. That is why these terrorist activities are increasing. It is because of the wrong decision by the Pakistan government at that point of time, that they did not expel those people from Afghanistan who have come illegally to Pakistan, and they have made their bases here also and their bases in Afghanistan in these areas. Second thing is how are they? How are they undertaking the activities? If you study the pattern is very clear. The pattern is, and it is emerging daily. Day before yesterday, there was a big attack in one of the FC posts in the Kura Malaysia post in KPK, and it continued that you had to guard the aerial helicopter, you got to guard the aviation also to target those places where these things are going on. So now, as I told you, that there was a policy also in the previous government, when they allowed some of the Taliban to come to Pakistan as a goodwill venture, and they came to Swat, they came to areas where they again created havoc, and they again created the terrorist activity. And second major thing is that we have still not formulated any long-term policy in spite of the Security Council analytical support and sanction monitoring.
Remains an important aspect, and we will be coming back to it later in the program. But Mr. Abdullah, coming back to, of course, the surge in recent attacks, and when we look at these attacks carried out by Fitnatul Khawarij, why do you see, what are the factors that are behind, and what are the reasons that Balochistan and KP remain the epicenter of these attacks?
As brigadiers have highlighted that these both our provinces are adjacent to Afghanistan as well as Iran. So most of the hideouts of TTP, Al-Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Islam, Hafizul Bahadur group, all these which I collectively call them Fitnatul Khawarij. Some people only use this term for TTP, but these are all Kharijites. So they are all Khawarij which are fighting against Pakistani government and state. So we should be clear in using the terminology. This is not just the TTP, all are Kharijites. Their hideouts are in Afghanistan, while those who are operating the BLA, BLF, their hideouts are in Iran. So unfortunately, both the Western countries are brother countries, but their soil is being used against Pakistan. That is one factor. The other is, historically, Afghanistan was undergoing a major conflict during last 40 years. Initially, it was a war against Russia, then war against terrorism, American intervention in Afghanistan, and blowback. We actually faced that blowback, and simultaneously at that time in 2000, when 2002, the Baloch militancy was started with the help of the our adversaries, and that coincided. So both are blowing up, and I do not buy this idea that these are the Afghan refugees who are causing these troubles. There are no Afghan refugees in Makran and Baloch areas. They lived here for so many years. So accusing or finding scapegoats, we have to, I think, raise above that. We have to look at who are the real forces behind that, and these forces
Of course, we need to rise above that, but at the same time, Sheharyar, when we look at the stats, and the stats of Global Terrorism Index states that Pakistan ranks 4th on Global Terrorism Index. What measures can be, of course, implemented to reverse these trends of spikes in terrorism and militancy?
So, Maryam, there are like 3 tiers on which the government can basically take action. Historically, what the government of Pakistan has basically done is, like, it has focused more on the kinetic measures and lesser on the non-kinetic measures. And what historically has happened, which we basically saw with Operation Zarbul Azab and then Operation Radul Fasad, these were like hardcore military operations that basically pushed the militants into Afghanistan. But at the same time, the kind of reconstruction and non-kinetic measures that needed to be taken at that time were not taken or were delayed for some sort of reasons. Because of that, like there are like a lot of like social fissures, I would say, that have like been developed in the local populations as well. One, the local population is very hesitant whenever there is a discussion on any military operations, because at the end of the day, whenever there is a military operation in a certain geographical area, the people over there become IDPs and they have to move out of those areas until the military operation is done. And then after post-conflict development and reconstruction, that is like one area where Pakistan government has been lacking, because one, there is like not a lot of like funds that are available at the disposal of the government of Pakistan, and at the same time the reconstruction and the non-kinetic
political and social factors comes into play when we talk about such actions.
Political and social factors that are being exploited by the TTP and all of these other militant organizations as well. So at the same time, if we are going to take kinetic measures, right now the government of Pakistan is obviously having some sort of like kinetic strategy, and also intelligence based operations that are taking place at a daily basis. But at the same time, there needs to be a lot of like reconstruction and socio-economic development that has to take place in those areas as well.
Right, right. Of course, we will be talking about that aspect as well. But Mr. Tipu, when we look at such suggestions coming from, of course, different analysts about the proposed, of course, military action in these areas and in these regions, how do you see, are these actions feasible, or are they going to be further destabilize these areas, especially when we talk about Balochistan and certain areas of KP?
Hello, can I hear? Am I audible to you?
Yes, you are audible to you. Yes, you are audible.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much for having me here, Maryam. First of all, yeah, what you have already mentioned and what is being said, I totally agree with this, and what we have been discussing. Mention is that the further military action in Balochistan will further add fuel to the fire. And what I am going to say is that I totally agree with this, and I would like to say that the more thing that first of all we have to see the social fabric of the people living in Balochistan or in the areas where the military or the operations we have to have to launch. The social fabric of the civilians is badly disturbed. First,
right. Unfortunately, we are having some connectivity issue.
Things that are already in the hearts of the people in Balochistan.
Right, right. We are having some technical issues with regards to our connection with Mr. Tipu. So let me take the same question to you. Mr. Abdullah, what's your take on this when we look at these, of course, these suggestions proposed by different, of course, analysts about a potential military operation in these areas? Do you think this is going to further destabilize the area or the region, especially when we talk about Balochistan?
I think the government have made it categorically clear many times that they are not going to have a proper military operation just like Rai Najat, Rai Rast, and these will be, and currently what is going on in Balochistan, these are also intelligence based operation. So there is no area clearance operation like we did in Swat or North Waziristan or South Waziristan. So these kind of actually things put people into some sort of apprehension, as Sheharyar has highlighted, that the people think that they will be IDP. So I don't think that any IDPs will be in Balochistan, because the population is scattered and now the Baloch militants, what they are doing, they are either living across the border in Afghanistan and Iran, or they are now merging themselves into population and urban centers. So it will be hard to to conduct a SWAT like operation or North Waziristan kind of operation. So I don't think any military operation, but we have to use kinetic force in Balochistan to suppress this. The wave of terror is getting out of control, but at the same time I totally endorse the Sheharyar's idea that we have to have a comprehensive approach. Kinetic is important, but at the same time non-kinetic, in which negotiations, engagement, youth engagement, stakeholders engagement, and developments, and many other aspects are important. So our focus is currently on kinetic, and that has to be coupled with non-kinetic as well.
Right, of course, that is very important. But Mr. Ghazanfar, when we look at these situations, and United Nations has already, of course, declared TTP or Fitnat al-Khawarij as one of the largest terrorist group in Afghanistan. How do you see what are its implications for Pakistan's security, keeping in mind that Taliban government are not willing to do anything about these Fitnat al-Khawarij hideouts in Afghanistan?
You see, the trend of the war, the type of the war in these days has completely changed. You're witnessing the tension between Iran and Israel and what's happening. And you're seeing what Israel is doing in Gaza, what are they doing in southern Lebanon, and how the Lebanon, the Houthis and the Hamas and Hezbollah are responding. The trend of the war has come in that area, it has come into aerial warfare, that you fire rockets on each other and you impose damage to the adversary, and that's how the war will continue. In our part, once we examine, when we see, analyze Pakistan, Afghanistan and India situation, in this region, the emphasis is also on the proxies and the indirect war, which is happening in Pakistan, which was clearly manifested by Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Kumar Deval when he addressed the gathering, and he said that of the raw officers, he said that we will undertake terrorist activities in Pakistan because those groups who are fighting in Pakistan against the Pakistan security forces are not ideologically motivated. They are mercenaries, we will pay them money and they will fight. So that thing has obviously has become very clear, and Taliban is also Fitnat al-Khawarij or Taliban government, and they have become part of that fight against Pakistan because it's not the financing, it is not the funding, it is the supply of the weapons also, and all sorts of weapons. And when weapon.
Right, of course, but Mr. Abdullah, when we look at these attacks and rise in militancy over the last few months, of course, this has, of course, caused financial losses as well. When we look at FDI coming to Pakistan, especially with regards to CPAC. So how do you think, what kind of security mechanism should Pakistan be looking towards with China? And also ensuring, of course, lives of other foreign workers.
One thing we should have clarity in our mind, that when China was planning CPEC in 2012, 13, 14, because these were the planning years, at that time the terrorist attacks in Pakistan were at the highest level. So Chinese knew they are going to have this CPEC in a war-torn country or a conflict-prone country. So they knew that these things are coming, and they still know that Pakistan is going through difficult patch, and not just some Chinese, but a lot of Pakistanis are being killed, and the Chinese know this. So the apprehension or what perception is being spread that Chinese may pack up and go, that is not going to happen. Pakistan is doing well because 2 division force in Pakistan Army. One is in north, one is in south. Then we have a task force in all the police, in GB police, Azad Kashmir police, and 4 provinces, and now in Islamabad as well. These task forces are mean to protect the CPEC projects, the Chinese, and working on different projects. So there is a web of security measures, but still things happen. Why these things happen? Because already Pakistan is going through a bigger conflict. Pakistan is being targeted by bigger powers, regional powers as well as global powers, and this is the context. So in this context, we cannot rule out totally that these things will not happen, although our forces have mitigated because these things are not reported. How many attacks averted by our security forces? That is not being reported, but if a single incident is reported in the media, that becomes a news and a perception is being built. But keep in mind that China is not going back by any cost, and this CPEC will go through, but obviously the CPEC is not being seen by certain powers with good
and also
good eyes.
Other friendly countries that are going to be investing in Pakistan, like when we talk about GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, do you see that they are showing some concerns regarding the security environment?
I think they know the security concerns are everywhere, but despite this security situation, I hope that they will come, and they are coming. They know that what is happening here, but still we are seeing the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, they are all in Kuwait, they are all coming with some sort of FDIs in Pakistan, signing MOUs despite a lot of security concerns here. So these things will go hand in hand, and we have been going through during last 25 years, and this will obviously we will have to live with it.
Especially when we look at the global politics,
Yes.
of course with the wars going on in Europe and of course Middle East as well. But at the same time, Sheharyar, when we look at different aspects of this rising militancy, especially in Pakistan, there is one factor that we cannot miss is the phenomenon of including and brainwashing young minds, university students, especially women, in these terrorist attacks. How do you think that these Fitnat al-Khawarij coming into universities and brainwashing these young minds have altered the landscape of militancy?
So Maryam, this question of yours is like directly linked in the way socio-economic development has been conducted in Pakistan historically.
Especially because we know that in the one of the recent attacks, it was of course revealed that.
Yes. So Pakistan, obviously when we talk about non-kinetic measures, a big portion of that is countering violent extremism, de-radicalization and prevention of violent extremism. So in that aspect, Pakistan has historically been lacking. There have been a lot of like policies that have been made on the federal level, National Internal Security Policy, then National Counter-Extremism Policy Guidelines by NACTA, and obviously NACTA has also developed a National Countering Violent Extremism Policy as well. But at the same time, when you have to like conduct some sort of developments, the first aspect that needs to be like kept in mind that the development should be inclusive in nature, and the local population should have their stakes in the development that is taking place in their geographical area. When it comes to the growth or development in Gwadar, when it comes to all of the mines and minerals that are there in Balochistan and the natural resources that we basically discuss, there should be a lot more stake of the local population, and they should get jobs and
how can
ownership.
Pakistan, Sheharyar, address this, of course, sense of deprivation in these local communities?
So definitely there needs to be a lot of work done at three levels. One is at the community level, one is at the university level, and one is at when it comes to the education level, and the youth of these areas need to be engaged more progressively by the state of Pakistan. When it comes to young people, we keep on like saying that the 60% of Pakistan's population is under the age of 30. So when all of these youth are going to the school, colleges and universities, they have aspirations and they want to be an active part of the job market, and they want to have a slice of the socio-economic pie, and they need some sort of social mobility in the future. When they basically get this perception and sense of deprivation, when they basically see the disparities in the development in various different provinces, so that is where the grievances are developed, and those grievances are the ones that are exploited by these militant organizations, and they use these grievances against the state of Pakistan, and they try to recruit the young people, which are impressionable, they are like have like a lot of energy, and that energy needs to be channeled into positive activities. So for that, a holistic policy, especially in areas that are socio-economically less developed, that policy needs to be there, and it needs to be more progressive in nature.
Right, of
and
course.
that is like something that's like lacking when it comes to how the government is dealing with this issue.
Right, sure. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Certainly, the sense of deprivation is an issue, but if we look into the Balochistan issue specifically, the Baloch militants are not raising the issue of deprivation. They are actually attacking all those projects which are to uplift the
critical
people.
infrastructure.
What they say that they will not allow Chinese or any other country or Pakistan to develop Balochistan. What they say and what is their narrative is not about deprivation. There it is separatism, and they want they are actually influencing the mind with the separatist ideas.
That is the brainwashing.
That is a different thing from deprivation. Deprivation is yes, South Punjab and many other parts. Yes, there are issues we have to address, but that is within the ambit of your constitution. But these people are saying that no, we don't want any development in Balochistan and the ambit of Pakistani authority or Pakistani constitution. That is a different bar. And here we have to actually fight on the national narrative issue, which is lacking in our policy, especially in Balochistan. That is the issue which really needs special attention of our policy makers.
Right, and when we talk about this brainwashing, how do you see this has changed the way we have been dealing with these fitnatul khawarij, especially with regards to youth, how they have of course brainwashed the youth of especially not only those local areas, but of course major universities, big cities?
Actually, if in the context of Balochistan, let me explain to you that since 2017, the command of Baloch militancy is now not in the hands of the tribal elders. Now the middle class, well-educated people like Dr. Allah Nazar and Bashir Zeb Baloch, they are heading these militant factions. So they are now attracting the well-educated youth in the name of separatism to have their, idealizing a separate Balochistan and like these things. And these are the things which we could not counter properly. As far as universities are concerned, they have a network of BSO Azad in entire Pakistan. In Islamabad and elsewhere, they become their groundwork, and then these militant groups come to recruit the special out of these people who can become hardcore fighters. So there is a proper web of recruitment and all these things.
Right, of course, when there are issues of inclusivity, those issues should be dealt with, but of course exploiting those emotions is another issue. But coming back to, of course, the rise in terrorism, Mr. Ghazanfar, when we look at the role of international community in assisting Pakistan, how do you see that, especially United Nations assisting Pakistan in dealing with these factors?
I think nobody is helping Pakistan in dealing with this factor. Pakistan is fighting this war alone. United Nations already publishing the reports. As far as the rise of the Baloch nationalism or Baloch separatism is concerned, if you go back into the history and you study their methodology in the universities, why the educated people have come, it started from the narrative of the deprivation. It started from the narrative of non-development. It started from the narrative of non-inclusiveness into the national fora. Though there were a number of Baloch students who were transported from Balochistan to universities in Pakistan, and one of the militant who was caught, and in his press conference, you must have heard last week, about 2-3 weeks back, he said that we were in Punjab University where we were motivated to join this Baloch nationalist group. Harbiyar Mari, Baramdad Bukti, Bashir Zeb, Javed Mangal. If you see the constitution of the tribal faction in Bukti or in their tribe, these people represent 0.1% of their tribe. Because in these tribes, in Bukti tribe, there are 11 other tribes also. So actually, very long time back, in General Shah's time, a lot of money was given to Balochistan to spend. But what happened when the budget finished? June, at the end of the June, the whole of the budget was returned. You see, Zubaida Jalal was from Turbat, and Turbat is one of the area where the level of the education is higher than anybody among, especially in girls, in the women. And in the army wanted to open a cadet college there in Turbat. So people said, no, don't open a cadet college for the male, open a cadet college for the female, because there's so much of the female participation. There were so high class dates are produced in Turbat. We could have invested. We could have the state could have constructed some of the dates processing factories there. But probably these things which were initially cost as a deprivation, led to the narrative of separatism. And moreover, the narrative of the separatism is not of the Baloch only. It has been held by Dr. Allah. There was the U.S. Congressional Committee in Foreign Affairs in Foreign Relations Committee in USA, which heard the state of the concern of Balochistan, and they represented the concern of the Balochistan, Azad Balochistan, and all that.
Right,
There was a
right.
government in exile which was established in Israel. So it is the combination of the outside forces and inside narratives which has brought the situation to this place, which is very dangerous now.
Of
I mean,
course,
you
that is very
just don't
dangerous,
just
and
not one over it.
Brigadier
Just
Ghazanfar,
don't
when we
ignore it
look
that there
at
are
this
things which
dangerous
are going
situation,
good. There
how
are
can
things which are not
Pakistan?
doing good in Afghanistan.
Right, right.
There are things which
Point
are
well
not
taken.
done
Point well
in
taken. But moving
Afghanistan.
ahead,
It's over very
right.
great prices, and one has to understand that. We cannot ignore it that everything is donkey hori in Balochistan and we go to the. It is not, because what has happened on Quetta railway station and the way the terrorist incidents have taken place, where so many soldiers have lost their life, it is a cause of concern for this government that something more than the kinetic, more than the non-kinetic measures have to be done at the extra pace, not in a normal
And
pace.
what kind of measures, Mr. Ghazanfar, Pakistan needs to do to prevent these fitnat al-Khawarij or terrorist outfits to exploit these geopolitical vulnerabilities to, of course, recruit more people in their groups, especially young people?
You see, we must understand that China is a very big stakeholder in Afghanistan. Chinese have signed a $450 million oil exploration deal in the Amu Darya Basin. And moreover, they have also signed a 10 billion contract for the exploration of lithium. But China is quiet as far as the problem of the Fitna al-Khawarij and the terrorist group, which are separatist group, which are operating in the part of the BLA, BRA, BNA, whatever. China is one of the stakeholders which can compel, which can ask Afghanistan not to get their soil used for terrorist activities in Pakistan. But till this time, there is a silent understanding between China and the Afghan government, which is obvious, but China is not asked. Even there were two incidents like Dasu and another incident where Chinese were targeted, and those Chinese who were targeted, they came from Afghanistan. They were part of the Afghanistan. The vehicle which was used in Dasu was prepared in Afghanistan. It entered Pakistan from Chaman, but Chinese did not talk to them. So you should be concerned that why China is not speaking, because China is concerned about the Ugyar province, where ETM supporters of ETLM rising was there. So the Afghan Fitnat al-Khawarij government has given an assurance to China that nothing will happen in China in the Uyghur province of the China. So the China does what we can diplomatically do, we can at least ask China, there are stakes of Chinese there, and then involve other people also, because Pakistan is being targeted by the by Afghan Taliban government. And when I say that the Afghan camps are being used, it is not that those people living in the camp. You see the incidents of the incidents which have happened in Pakistan. All those people who were later on when their DNA was taken, most of them had come from Afghanistan to Pakistan and were residing in the Afghan Muhajirin camp. They were illegal people. There are some people who legally living in Pakistan. So Pakistan should have taken a step against the illegal people who have come from Afghanistan. It's my soil. Illegally, nobody can live here without passport. Why aren't we taking action against those people? So until we take knee-jerk operation and do not make a comprehensive counter-terrorism policy, handling the diplomatic, handling the kinetic, handling the non-kinetic measures under one umbrella, you see these terrorist activities will keep on happening like this, and we keep on holding the programs and kept on speaking on these things. But these things will produce results? These things will not produce results until a very comprehensive counter-terrorism policy is adopted by all segments, by all departments under one umbrella.
Right, very rightly said, Brigadier Retired Ghazanfar Ali Khan. Thank you for your valuable input, and the same question to you. When we look at all the aspects of this spike in terrorism in Pakistan in recent months, especially in 2024. Of course, Pakistan has had successful counter-terrorism strategies in past as well. What lessons can Pakistan learn from those? And looking ahead, how should we move forward?
of the lesson from the past, whenever we conducted major military operations, the whole nation was on same page. But this time the situation is different. Political instability is the main cause, which is not letting the nation to single-mindedly look at this menace. At Zarb-e-Azb or Rai Ras, Rai Najat, whether it was in Swat, whatever was the operation, the nation was united. This time the nation is divided, and that is the issue which the government has to take on board. All parties conference, which the Prime Minister had announced some months back, that has to take place, and the whole nation approach is the solution to this. Until this political instability is there, we will not be able to fight it properly.
Your last few words, how can we deal with this security crisis moving ahead?
So Maryam, I agree with
especially when we talk about unity in the nation.
I agree with Abdullah Saab. Like last time around when the whole nation came together was after the APS incident.
Right.
Together, it won't.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheharyar Khan, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah Khan, for joining us in today's program. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.